Hey, everybody, and welcome to another baseball championship episode of Fill the Mic. As always, I'm Darren Michael, and with me, the man who's actually been away for the last 10 days. Been away doing what, you might ask? Well, he actually was in Carolina. He was working with the Panthers owner, David Tepper, and the GM, Scott Fitterer, to make the Christian McCaffrey trade. Phil, welcome back. How was Carolina, and how do you feel about what you guys achieved with the trade?
What's going on? Good to be back. Yeah, just got in from Carolina. It was a big 10-day period where we had to make an organizational decision to release Christian McCaffrey from this disaster that is the Carolina Panthers. Think about poor Christian McCaffrey. He had to go from what? No quarterback to Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield to a third string.
What
And
is
we
the guy's
finally
name?
looked at him and go, Christian, we're sorry. We're sorry.
What's his name? PJ
PJ
Walker?
Tucker, PJ
P,
Tucker, PJ
no,
Tucker, the yeah, PJ
no,
Tucker played in the NBA, wasn't that
yeah, I was
good.
gonna
PJ Walker's
say.
not good in the NFL. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
I mean, listen,
it might as
we
well
were
have
like, hey,
been
Christian
PJ.
McCaffrey, how do you feel like to play your whole career against 9-man stacked boxes? Because nobody feels any concern about our receivers or quarterback. So, but we pay, listen, we gave him the ultimate thank you. We sent him back to his hometown, the Bay Area, to his childhood favorite team where his dad is in the organization doing something. So we sent them home.
Yeah, I thought that was really nice of you. And were you there when you guys were you involved in the decision to trade your star receiver Robbie Anderson also?
I mean, we would definitely loosely be using the term star receiver for Robbie Anderson, right?
Well, star on that team.
So otherwise known as the Panthers star receiver, other team's number 4. Is that what you mean by that? Because
Well,
Robbie
exactly.
Anderson had like one really good year with the Jets and then had like one good month with the Panthers, and he's not been good since.
Well, what
Yeah.
what what
Yeah, we
happened
did.
to, what happened with him that brought along this trade to happen so quickly anyway?
Yeah, so the owner went in after Cannon, the head coach, right? After he got rid of the head coach and said, go
Yep.
back to Baylor, you disgust me. I got to stop making these poor decisions of taking these mediocre 8-4 college teams and thinking they're going to be good NFL coaches. And he had it. The guy's one of the richest people in the world, David Tepper, and he walked in and he just had it. He had it with the organization. We stink top to bottom. I'm just a consultant. I just consult for a lot of teams, right? I'm not a Panthers guy, but
In
he
multiple
said, make
sports
some
too.
make some things happen. Yeah, make some things happen. So we said, radio, we'll get rid of everyone. We could lose with all these guys. We could lose without them. So
Brings
you know
back.
what? Not for
Yeah.
nothing. They got a pretty good haul for McCaffrey.
You like you like what they got?
Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So I mean,
Yeah,
take
yeah,
take a
two, three,
pick in
four
each round
next
outside
year.
of the first round. Yeah, a
Yeah, I
5
mean,
the year after.
the
For a running back who's often injured, all due
yeah,
respect to Christian McCaffrey, it's not the Panthers organization that makes him injury prone. So
yeah,
I think I think that's a pretty good haul for a running back who's not shown the most durability.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, listen, he's a likable guy. I think he brings a great skill set, and I think he is one of the most talented players in the NFL if he can stay on the field. And
And it, yeah,
maybe this is a situation where, being that he's not the only offensive weapon on a team, maybe this is going to help him. Maybe he won't be injured because these guys just know that he's going to get the ball all the time. It'd kind of be nice when 50% of the offense isn't him every game.
it, listen, a lot of the modern philosophy in the NFL is to try to build a team like the Niners with these like interchangeable diversification of parts, right? So McCaffrey could play the slot, he could play the back. You could do a lot with him. Obviously, Debo Samuel's the ultimate, Swiss Army knife receiver running back combo. The tight end Usyk or whatever his name is a little bit of
Yep.
a
Yep.
fullback tight end player.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh, so they got a lot of guys that if they all lined up on the field and could all play different, positions at the same time, they could be tough to deal with. Garoppolo's just got to steer the ship. Don't do too much. Don't do too much, and he shouldn't have to. the Niners in a weak NFC could be dangerous. That could be a move that makes them very dangerous.
I kind of look at this move and I think, okay, you know what? They decided to go all in. They think that they've got a really great chance in a tremendously weak NFC to come out on top. And like you said, this could do some really great things for them. And if he stays on the field, it makes a lot of sense, Anyway,
I
so
appreciate the 49ers GM saying we have Super Bowl ambitions, which led us to trading for Christian McCaffrey, which does beg the question, are they the first team in NFL history to lose their starting quarterback for the season and then get the ambition that they can win it all? They may be the first team in franchise history to go, now that our starting quarterback's out for the year, let's trade for Christian McCaffrey and go for this thing.
You know what? That is unbelievable. I never put that together. That
Probably first time in history.
That would be the first time ever. It's funny how we talked about that before, how they just kind of backed into success, It turns out
they tried to trade Garoppolo for 4 months.
Yeah. It's
where would they be without him?
Which still doesn't make any sense. You need to go back and talk to David Tepper about that, because what I don't know. I got nothing, man. Maybe
I think David Tepper's drowning his tears on a yacht in Aruba right now, or something.
Yeah, he's having a tough go of it. I'll tell you. Well, I wanted to throw out a little trivia question for you today. Now,
love trivia. Love it.
You and I on this podcast, we pretty much only talk baseball and football. That's pretty much what we only talk. And I think part of that is just because
you rant about LeBron at times. That's our basketball talk.
Sometimes we talk a little basketball, but to be honest with you, I think we're both kind of sick of the NBA and what it's become. It's just over the last, 20, 30 years, it's a league that you don't even recognize anymore. It's not as much fun to watch. So I don't even like to get into it. But anyway, the start of the NBA season happened. And the trivia question that I want to ask you is, there are 9 universities that have at least 10 guys in the NBA. I want to know if you can name all 9 universities.
I cannot. Absolutely.
You know what? I'll bet you can. You'd be surprised.
I mean, I'm just going to go with, if they're not the household brand names, I have no chance. So if East Kentucky State happens to have 9 NBA players, this isn't the right question.
All right. Well, let's be honest. Eastern Kentucky State.
Let's start at the top.
Okay.
So I'll go with we'll call them the Blue Bloods, right? They call them the Blue Bloods. Let's call them the Blue Bloods. We'll go Kentucky.
Kentucky has 27 at number 1. Yep.
We'll go North Carolina.
North Carolina is 4th, tied for 4th with 11.
Okay. We'll go Duke.
Duke is number 2 with 25. Those are some big numbers, 27 and 25.
You're cutting out a little bit on me.
No, they're second. They're second with 25.
We'll go. We'll go Kansas.
Kansas, surprisingly enough, they only have 10. They are still in the top, but they only have 10. I would have thought that they would have had more than that.
They just made the list.
They just made the list. With 10.
Trying to think. This one I might get tripped up on, but they jumped into my brain, so I guess I'll stick with a Michigan.
No, Michigan. Michigan's got a handful, but they don't have 10. They don't have 10.
Michigan State.
Oh, dude, I think you're going the wrong direction.
All right. Villanova.
Villanova has 10. Yes.
I mean, but Villanova, Michigan State, I kind of put on the same tier. So it just so happens that Villanova has them and they don't. They're all in the same classification in college basketball.
Listen, I don't have the numbers for Michigan and Michigan State, but my guess is that they would be somewhere between 5 and 9.
Yeah.
And it's not like Nova's been putting household names in the NBA either,
No, that's why I actually thought I might be going further backwards. Indiana?
No, Indiana, I think Indiana only has 6. That I know for a fact.
All right. Louisville?
Man, this one might be a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be for you.
I mean, because Syracuse.
Nope. Nope. Here, I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. Uh,
Did I say UCLA?
no, you did not, but you just did. They're number 3 at 12.
So I thought I said UCLA. I forgot to go to the Pac-12. Arizona.
Arizona has 10. Yep.
See, I kind of forgot the Pac-12 a little bit.
That's what the problem
Texas.
was. Texas has 10. One more left. One more left.
Yeah, man, the Big Ten got me a little bit off kilter. I thought Michigan would have done it.
Yeah,
One more left.
Big Ten has none. It's incredible.
One
See,
more left.
now the last one it is a little bit surprising. I don't know if I could name more than the are they twin brothers that went there?
Well,
But
give me the region, the geographic region, not the conference, but the region.
West Coast.
USC.
USC, that is correct with 11. 11. Now, part 2 of the trivia question. I want you to name all 27 UK players that are in the NBA.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
We're gonna stop.
I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you. But that was good. It's interesting to hear, like honestly, I wouldn't have thought Arizona. I wouldn't have thought.
So what it tells me is it's really not it, other than the top, say 4 or 5, it's not really the blue bloods.
No, I mean it's still big schools, but it's not necessarily anybody that's winning championships, like I don't know.
Yeah, well, because
I mean,
it's the most desired, it's the most of the, if you pick regionally, the highest recruits are going to the most desired. So there's like 3 teams out in the Pac-12. So it shows me that USC is doing a bad job of coaching.
Yeah.
Because USC, you know what I mean? Like UCLA, USC, I mean, I know they've been good of late, but
yeah.
they're not maximizing the talent that's going there. If
Well,
that much talent's making the NBA.
You know what else I thought was surprising? Like Villanova being on this list. I understand they've had a lot of good teams, but have they had great players that are in the NBA? I would not have thought they had 10 guys in the NBA.
I only named them because they have won a couple titles in the last. That's why I was like, they have won. So I was
They're
like,
a good team. I mean, they're consistently really, really good. But anyway, I
I'm
thought
only
that was
surprised. I feel like Michigan and Michigan State over the last couple of decades have been a consistently good team. Good team. So I would have thought they would have had 10 NBA players. Those two surprised me, Michigan and Michigan State. They've been good programs for a long time, pretty consistent.
Yeah. You would think. I mean, it was, so it's surprising, but it's not surprising. It's surprising in the sense that you would have thought that there were some other teams in there, but not surprising the fact that all of these teams have had a good amount of success. And Kentucky and Duke, I mean, year after year, I mean, they get 5-star. They only get 5-star guys on their team. So what do you expect? So anyway, that was fun. But let's talk a little baseball right now. Why don't you give us an update? Break down the playoffs and tell us what you think about what's going on right now. I mean, we knew it was going to be a good playoffs, and so far it's been exciting. Maybe not the way that we planned it to be, but it has been really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, as we sit here, so we're coming to you on a Saturday morning, always our favorite time. I don't even have coffee yet, so you can understand how quickly I jumped on this to do this. Normally I'd have a nice warm cup of coffee. You're drinking water, so yeah. So coming to you on Saturday morning of the League Championship Series, in which you couldn't juxtapose these two these two leagues more differently, right? The 5 and 6 seeds squaring off in the National League that took out 300 win teams.
I know
300 win teams are not representing the National League. And then in the American League, it went chalk 1-2. But I would say if you had given me a crystal ball and said which league is more likely to go chalk and which league is more likely to be chaotic, I would agree with this, right?
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think all year we've been talking about how the National League is much deeper and more talented. And the
yep,
American League, you would be grasping at straws in the American League to find anybody that could have picked off the Yankees or Astros. It was a very weak American League. With all apologies to the great Mariners who hadn't been in the playoffs in 20 years, or the Tampa Bay Rays that still managed to make the playoffs, and you look at the roster and go, how are they doing it?
yep, yep,
To the Blue Jays that never seem to hit on all cylinders despite a lot of the young household names they have. And the Guardians, who are a cute story, because I'll call them a cute story. Everybody on the Guardians hits 240. They have no power, and somehow they made it to they gave the Yankees a real scare getting to
yeah.
five.
They did.
But
They did.
in the American League, the great saving grace of the playoffs is you got rivals in the Yankees and Astros meeting. The Astros have been 6 years running in the league championship series. This is their seventh straight appearance in the league championship series, which
Unbelievable.
probably is a record. They only have one ring. It's controversial, but they've been just as good post cheating scandal as they have pre cheating scandal.
That's
And I
right.
think the Astros are on a mission this year. They are up 2-0 on the Yanks. I won't push the panic button yet for the Yanks because the Yankees haven't been home yet. They get to go home now for 3 games, and they get to try to, right the ship and get back in the
Yep,
series.
yep.
If I was doing glass half empty for the Yankees or glass half full for the Astros, I would just say this: Altuve doesn't have a hit in the postseason.
It's
He's 0
crazy.
for 24.
It's crazy to
Um,
think about.
and the Astros really haven't hit well yet, and they're still up 2-0 because that
Yeah,
speaks to how
yeah,
good their team is. Their pitching's been lights out, bullpen's been lights out, and the Yankees are boom or bust. The Yankees are going to hit a home run or they're going to lose. Um, But the Yankees get Garrett Cole on the mound game 3, so we'll see how it goes. I would say the Yankees have to be all in on winning game 3 with their ace at home to try to get back in the series.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but the Astros are the class of baseball right now, I think. Again, in a world where there's no Dodgers in the playoffs and there's no Braves even in the playoffs, I would say the Astros are the favorites, to win it all.
I mean, the
Um,
Astros, they haven't lost yet in the playoffs, right? They're 5-0.
No, and you bringing up a good point to me because I was very interested to see how the 4 number 1 and 2 seeds would do in this new format, where they
Yeah.
were off for 5 or 6 days
Yep, yep.
because of the wild card 3-game series round. And interestingly, Dodgers lose, Braves lose, Yankees are taken to 5 by a very mediocre Guardians team. And now the Astros swept the Mariners. But what I will say, and you got to go back 2 weeks ago, and
Yep.
everybody go back to the first game, Seattle Houston in Houston. Seattle had a massive lead in that game.
Hmm.
They were up like 7-1 in that game, 6-1, 7-1, and the
Yep.
Astros hit a walk-off. They ended up coming back, and then ultimately Yordan Alvarez hits a walk-off 3-run homer off Robbie Ray. They brought in the ace to close, lefty, and Yordan, which I thought was a good move at the time.
It
Hey,
was. It was a
you
good
got
move.
you're playing a powerhouse team. Game 1, you got them on the ropes. You got to get one more out. You bring in your big ace, lefty matchup to try to close it out, and he hits a 3-run, 500-foot home run.
What do you do?
And I turned to my son, both of my sons at the time, because they were rooting against the Astros. And I turned to them and I immediately said, "The series is over, guys. The Mariners will not get off the deck from this game
That's tough.
because you don't blow a 6-run lead to the best team when you have a chance to go up 1-0 and live to tell about it."
Yeah,
And then
that's
they
true.
promptly got swept after that.
That's true.
So
That's
the
true.
Astros listen, the Astros are the ultimate battle tested team.
They
You're
are.
not scaring them. You're not putting them in a spot they can't handle. You're not booing them to death. Like they lived through a scandal where they got booed everywhere they went. They've been in the playoffs every year. They're battle tested. They're scrappy, and they
Yeah,
got a ton of talent. So it's not to
yeah.
minimize it because they
They're
have a
they're
ton
a
of
great
talent.
team. They're a great,
So,
great team. They're a great
so
team. Now, what are
if
your are you surprised with the NL with Phillies
yeah,
and San Diego?
yeah,
Now Phillies are up two
yeah,
to one. Really?
yeah. So listen, if you're just a chaos person, you love the National League, right? Like if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
just like pick off everybody. But
yeah.
if you're like one of those people that want to make sense of like the length of a 162 game season and like what's fair and unfair, I mean, Phillies are in my backyard. I'm not a fan. As you don't like LeBron, I don't like I don't like the city of Philadelphia, so I certainly don't like the teams that reside in it. I'm just not a fan. Okay, I'm not a fan. But
Okay.
the thing about it is, it's annoying when a team wins 87 games and never even looks decent all year. Like they just
Yeah,
plod along,
I know.
and then they get hot for 2 weeks, and it all comes together because look at the format, right? So if you're the Dodgers or Braves, maybe you're complaining about the format right now. You didn't like the time off or whatever. If you're the Phillies, you're only in the playoffs because they added an extra team.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you're literally the beneficiary of the extra team and the new
That's right.
format.
That's
And
right.
then like we always say, the old adage is just get in and you could win, right? Just get in, just sneak in. There's no difference between a 110 win Dodger team and an
That's right.
87 win Philly team when the postseason starts.
That's
You're
right.
starting over.
That's
Your
exactly right.
regular season stats didn't matter. The inconsistencies to which you played baseball didn't matter. You snuck in the back door, you got in, and here you are. So am I surprised? Here's what I would say about the Padres and Phillies. They won 87 and 89 games respectively. They did get very aggressive at the trade deadline and tried
Yep.
to
Yep.
improve a team that both weren't great, right? So they tried their best to improve the team. Now, the trade deadline did not bring them the results they wanted. If you look at both teams post trade deadline, they actually didn't play well. And the moves they made didn't help. Hader was a disaster on the Padres. Soto didn't hit. Josh Bell went into his worst slump of the year. Drury didn't hit. You can go down the list. And the Phillies, Marsh, and they added Robertson in the bullpen, and they made a couple of moves. Obviously, Syndergaard wasn't that good for them. I mean, they made moves. They didn't really pan out, but still they
Yep.
made the postseason. Now, here's where it did pan out. It panned out in the postseason.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
snuck in. Josh Hader's lights out again. He found
Yep.
his fountain of youth.
He's been great.
Soto's been pretty good. He's never been as good as he could be, but he's been pretty
No.
good.
No.
Josh Bell's hit a few big home runs. So they've gotten some results out of the trade deadline. Syndergaard, I think, gave him a shot in the arm the other day in a postseason game. And listen, Schwarber's dangerous. Harper's dangerous. Obviously, Harper's a great player.
Yep.
So if you look at how the postseason's constructed, they have two legitimate top end pitchers, the Phillies, Nola and Wheeler.
Yep.
They got 3, 4 big home run bats, the Phillies. It's all played well in the postseason. All of that has worked for them. Their deficiencies of being an inconsistent hitting team, they're bad
Yep.
defensively, hasn't really burnt them. The Padres, same thing. They got some sluggers. They're not like no-name guys. They got some real talent. They got a good arm. They got Darvish, Musgrove, and Snell, Hader in the back of the pen. So
Yeah.
not crazy, but 87, 89 win teams. They are what they are. Here's what I would say. They're massive underdogs to the Astros if they play in the World Series.
Oh,
They're just not on Astro level.
right.
Like, so if you're looking for a dream World Series matchup of Dodgers Astros or Braves Astros or whatever, this isn't going to be that World Series. You know what I mean? There's just whoever makes it to the World Series from the National League is a decided underdog. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean they can't pull it off,
Yeah.
but they are a decided underdog.
Yeah, and you know what? And my favorite thing, you know how I am. I like records and history and things like that. And I like how the Nola brothers made history, and how the first time in the playoffs, one brother has pitched to another brother, and it was great that the brother that's not really as I'll say as good as the other brother won that battle. And what were you telling me about the speed of the pitches coming into the other brother?
So the speed of the pitches, I think Aaron, what's his brother's name?
Aaron
Austin.
and is it,
Aaron to Austin, right?
I think it
Austin
is.
Nola.
I think so.
Yeah. So the pitcher Aaron Nola, his of his 9 fastest fastballs thrown this season, 3 of them were to his brother. So nothing
Yeah.
juices you up like an old brother playoff rival.
Oh man, the brother rivalry. So I thought that was pretty awesome, man. I'm excited about
Did
that.
you
So that
did you
was
see this? The pic of the dad. He had the Padres hat and the Phillies jersey, or the Phillies jersey and the Padre hat, and Nola got a hit off Nola. He was kind of like didn't cheer. He didn't know what to do.
I mean, what do you don't exactly expect for your two sons to be facing each other in the playoffs,
No.
It's wild. I thought
Yeah.
what a cool moment, especially for those parents, man. What a really cool moment.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to a little college football. It was an interesting week. I watched the Tennessee Alabama game and I was thoroughly just disgusted. I'm an Alabama fan and I couldn't believe what was going on. It was just as ugly as it could be. 52-49. I mean, I think that for some reason they thought that they were playing in the Big 12 or the Pac-10 or the Pac-12, whatever it is. But that was a big upset. That was a big upset. And then you had number 20 Utah 43 to number 7 USC 42. Then you had number 13 TCU 43, number 8 Oklahoma State 40 in overtime. You had some great top 10 losses last week. And the interesting thing with that is I would say that USC and Oklahoma State getting their first loss puts them pretty much out of the championship, the Final Four. But I think that Bama is still in because they're Bama. And let me ask you a question. If Bama ends up running the rest of the season, they win their division, and then they win the SEC by beating Georgia, I mean, are they still a top 4 team in your eyes?
So will they be? Sure. Here's the only thing I would say about Alabama. We've joked that their schedule was basically, it's not very good.
Right.
It's not the worst schedule, but it's not very good. They've been living on a prayer, Bon Jovi. They've been living on a prayer with the Texas game in which they flat out should have lost. They were down to facing a second and third string quarterback and won by a point at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could have easily lost to Texas A&M, and then they did lose to Tennessee.
Yep.
So this is not vintage Bama. And I know they're going to get all the benefit of the doubt with all due apologies. Everybody loves Alabama in the postseason. They want them in the Final Four. Not the fans of the country, but the committee. They say each year is its own separate entity, but we know when it comes to Alabama and a few of these schools, it's not. And that's the biggest lie being peddled, is that it's all its own separate entity. That angle only comes out when it's a team they don't want to put in. Your past history, but like Alabama they get the benefit of the doubt. They shouldn't get the benefit of the doubt this year. They could have 3 losses at this point. They certainly haven't had an impressive win. They don't have impressive wins. They have surviving wins and then an ugly shootout loss. So I think, for the rest of the season, Alabama's playing for their postseason lives, because if they lose another game, it's over.
Yeah, naturally.
But if as we sit here today, they beat Mississippi State, LSU, Ole Miss, Austin P, the Peasers,
That's going to be a tough game for them.
And a 2-4 Auburn team that I'm sure they'll sell you on is a really tough game that day. I'm sure Alabama's going to be sitting there, in the SEC title game with a chance to win and get in. So, I mean, they're, a 12-1 SEC champs making the postseason, period. The end.
Yeah.
It's not a debate. What I feel bad for is Tennessee, because is it possible that Tennessee gets locked out of the SEC title if Georgia is ahead of them, right?
Well, I mean,
aren't they in the same half aren't they both in the East in the SEC?
I think so.
I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah, they have to be. So
do they play each other?
They got to play each other then, right? I would imagine they have to, right?
Not
Georgia and Tennessee are in. Oh, that would be insane. They don't play each other?
Yeah. So I don't even know what happens if they're both undefeated.
No, they do. They play each other November 5th. They play each other.
Oh, that's exciting. That should be an exciting game.
Yeah.
That's when we really find out if Tennessee
is
great. Yeah.
Well, I mean, wait, so Tennessee has to beat Alabama and Georgia in the same season for you to find out they're really good? I mean, so that sounds fair. That sounds fair.
Listen.
Because that's always said about Alabama. Stop.
The only reason that I say that is because Tennessee has looked so mediocre for so long that all of the sudden you're going to buy into them because they beat Alabama by 3 points, kicking a field goal at the last second. That's all that I'm saying. An Alabama team that's overrated this year is probably one of their worst Alabama teams he's had in a long time. That's the only reason I'm saying it. I'm not saying that Tennessee's not good. I'm just saying history-wise, I cannot even tell you the last time that they've been good. And we've talked on the show about how it's Tennessee. They're not exactly
a great
football team. They're just making it happen.
Let's paint this scenario out, okay? Georgia beats Tennessee close.
Yeah.
Tennessee's locked out of the SEC title game. They can't get in, right? It's Georgia, Alabama. Georgia goes on to beat Alabama, right? It eliminates Alabama.
Yep.
Georgia does not win the SEC or even play in the title game. Tennessee is 11-1. Their losses to the number 1 team, Georgia, right? Tennessee loses to Georgia.
Yep.
Do they get in as the 4th team?
You know, the answer is no, because they're Tennessee.
Well, and that's what college football, that's why they need an expansion, because it's
And
just, it's
right.
not
That's
fair.
why they are
If each
expanding. That's right.
season is its own independent entity, then none of that should matter. And especially if it's coming from
I
the
agree.
SEC is the best. Like, how could Tennessee not
Listen,
get in if they got to win over Bama?
I agree, but are you telling me I'm wrong?
I will say that you could be wrong this year because it's a really weak, like the Big Ten's going to
It
get
is.
one team. So the
It
Big
is.
Ten gets their one team in.
It
So
is
if
weak.
it's Georgia, let's say it's Georgia, Ohio State, and let's say, and I'm trying to scroll through it quickly, we agreed the Pac-12 may get none, right?
Well, listen.
I mean,
Listen,
UCLA is still undefeated. If UCLA goes undefeated, they're going to make it. But let's say UCLA doesn't.
but look at the other
The
teams you got.
ACC has Clemson.
The Clemson's probably not going to lose. Ohio State, as long as they get by Michigan, they're going to be undefeated. Georgia, let's say Georgia
Right.
ends up
So
winning
so
everybody.
Georgia, Ohio State,
Clemson,
Clemson,
and
1,
then
2, 3.
who's your 4th team?
And then could Tennessee be the 4th team? I'm saying, could Tennessee be the 4th team?
You know, it depends. It depends. I don't know. It's a great question. It's a great question. You know, people are going to look at that and they're going
Well,
to say, okay, well, they're Tennessee. And, you know, and you got to remember, when you lose late in the season, it hurts you a lot more than losing in the beginning of the season. You know, so what's going to
it
happen
does,
is
but yeah.
this is going to be the
Yeah.
interesting thing, right? If they lose to Georgia, watch Alabama jump over Tennessee.
Yeah, but it won't matter because Georgia will then, if Georgia beats Alabama, so that won't matter because Georgia,
But
Alabama
I know, but I'm
is,
just saying for rankings wise, I mean, it's a head scratcher. It doesn't make any sense. So Tennessee beat Alabama, but because Tennessee loses a couple weeks later, then Alabama's going to be ranked better than they are.
well,
It doesn't make any sense.
I posed you a question, and the more interesting question actually would be if Georgia beats Tennessee close at home, right? So this is
Yeah.
the part 2. Georgia's at home in that game. Let's say they beat them 38-35. Great game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tennessee now shows they can beat anybody. And then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC title game.
Oof.
Alabama's getting in,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Then they might be picking between Georgia, Tennessee for the 2nd spot. I mean, Georgia probably gets it because they beat Tennessee head to head.
Well, Georgia's going to get it because they're Georgia.
I hear you.
I'm telling you, man, the fact that Tennessee has not been a good football team for a long time, or a great football team for a long time, that's what's going to do them in. That's how the committee.
I think a big factor is going to be how they go to Georgia and play. I think it'll be interesting.
Oh, definitely. That is arguably going to be one of the most important.
They go toe to toe and lose a heartbreaker or something with wins over Alabama and a close loss at Georgia. That would be a good resume.
Listen. The two biggest games of the season are going to be Tennessee and Georgia, and Ohio State and Michigan. Those are the 2 biggest games that we have coming up, and that's going to be really, really great and exciting football. And that's where we're going to know. That's when they're going to separate the men from the boys. That's when you're going to know.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to know who the absolute best teams are. And listen, there's a legitimate chance that Tennessee beats Georgia and ends up being the number 1 team in the country. You know,
we'll just see
what happens.
If Tennessee goes to Georgia and wins, no regular season team would have a better resume in a long time than wins over Bama and Georgia in the same year.
Oh yeah. Oh, it'd be incredible. It'd be incredible. And you look at their quarterback, Hendon Hooker, not to be confused with the streetwalker. He had a great game. 21 of 30, 385 yards, 5 touchdowns. He is right now the Heisman favorite, and he deserves to be. He's 1,800 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception, 70% completion, 187.7 rating. So the guy is just playing like like
Yeah.
he is just the man, right? And then you've got his wide receiver, Jalen Hyatt, who coming into the season in his first 2 years had a combined 4 touchdowns, caught 5 touchdowns last week off of 6 receptions. I mean, my God, the guy only has 33 catches in 6 games with 10 touchdowns. So, I mean, they're not messing around in Tennessee, man. It's exciting to see. And you know what? Part of me wants to see. I mean, I live in Georgia, but I'm a Georgia hater. So part of me wants to see Tennessee beat Georgia. Part of me doesn't want to see that because I'd like to see Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship. I don't know, but it's exciting football this year, and it's always nice when you have a team that isn't normally a good team, fighting for one of these playoff spots. So
Agreed.
that's all I'm saying. Let's hear it. Let's do a little Phil's Big Three before we move on to the NFL. I'm excited. We missed last week.
Yeah,
Just
so
as a reminder,
we missed.
12,
Yeah.
5-1, 3-3 on best bets. This is not this. I'll tell you how I know this is not a good week. I was looking through the college football pick'em league that I do that you've chosen not to, and here's some of the games that are on there. All right. BYU versus Liberty. That's a big matchup there. Tulane is ranked in the top 25. I don't know how the heck that happened. I get to pick Buffalo and Toledo, which is really exciting. And more importantly, I get to pick UCF and East Carolina. So that just tells me right there, not a whole lot of great games, but it looks like there's still a few. You should still be able to come up with a few.
Yeah.
So how are you going to win us money this week, Phil?
So as you know, I always pick what I think are the 2 best games in terms of, rankings and
Yep.
what matters for the playoff, and then I'll give you my best bet. I've been a little shaky with the best bet, so I need to right the ship there, but 12-5, pretty good overall. So let's go with the probably the best, most impactful. There's 2 really that are going to impact the overall playoff standings. First game, 12 o'clock kickoff, Clemson and Syracuse. And I know that sounds weird to include Syracuse in a conversation of big games, but they are 6-0. They
Yeah.
are ranked 14th according to my ESPN little site here.
Yep.
Clemson 5th, and the ACC's down. We know this. They're not juggernauts. Florida State hasn't emerged. Miami hasn't emerged. Clemson's been the class of the ACC for a long time.
Yeah.
They're not like vintage Clemson though. And what I've found is, at least the last couple years, Clemson has a little bit of an offensive deficiency. They're
Yeah.
just the difference between Clemson and some of the real top teams is like Clemson doesn't have typically the big home run hitting players right now. They're like a good team with really well coached. They're gonna beat you with defense. They're gonna score more, but it's like they're gonna score enough to be, to win these games.
Yeah.
But laying 14. And listen, I know Syracuse probably is littered with 3-star and 2-star recruits. So I know that the
Yeah.
talent gap is probably considerable. But Syracuse got a little something going for them. They'll be psyched out of their mind. I think they'll play a good game. They'll probably lose, I don't know. They'll lose by 12, 13 points. I don't know. 14 points seems a little high. So I'll take Syracuse plus 14.
Okay.
I think Syracuse could be in the game into the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
the next game, and again, the Pac-12 is kind of an enigma. I don't watch a lot of Pac-12 football. They are playing a nice 3:30 kick, thank goodness, so people can watch the number 9 team play the number 10 team. I'm talking about UCLA and Oregon. UCLA travels to Eugene. I know this is a place of horrors. Like Oregon is so good at home in these games. Lots of seasons get derailed traveling up to Eugene to play this team.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that good. I've been down on UCLA though. I thought it was like a house of cards. I really don't think they're the number 9 team. But I gotta say, maybe I'm being a sucker for taking points this week, but I'm gonna take the 6.5 with UCLA. And I know Oregon's good at home, but I don't know. I'm gonna say UCLA's got a little obviously having their best team in a long time. I'm gonna roll the dice. It's a close game. I'll take 6.5.
Nice.
Then I'm going to give you my best bet, and I'm going to feel so confident in this best bet that this spread's going to be covered at halftime. It's going to be covered at halftime. It's another noon kickoff.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst offensive teams in college football history, the Iowa Hawkeyes, traveling to Columbus to take on Ohio State. And with all apologies, Iowa is so bad offensively. Ohio State will have this covered at halftime, 37-0. and go on to a 59-0 win. And I'm
Wow.
taking Ohio State laying 29.5 because I think if this was the halftime spread, I'd be tempted to take it. And that's my best bet.
Those were some bold picks, my friend. So you got Syracuse plus 14, UCLA plus 6.5, and then OSU at minus 950 points by halftime. So I'm liking it, man. I'm liking it. So yeah. So you know what? Miraculously, it looks like there's some good games. Now you didn't want to touch. I mean, there's a huge in-state game today that you didn't even talk about. Tennessee is at home playing one of their chief rivals, the UT Martin Skyhawks. You didn't want to touch that one?
And UT Martin is 4-2, but Vegas didn't put a spread on the game, so that's when I stay away from it. When Vegas goes, no hablo inglés, no hablo inglés.
It says,
when they do that.
You know, it's funny because it says that Tennessee has a 99.4% chance of winning. I got to be honest with you. I think that's a little low, don't you think?
Feels like it.
I mean, 99.4. I can't see out of 100 matchups. I can't see them winning any less than 100 times. I got to put it out
I do want to bring. I do want to bring attention to our viewers here. You rarely, I'm not going to say it's never happened, but it is very rare when the number 7 team in the country is underdog to an unranked team. And you do get that today. LSU is 1-point favorite over number 7 Ole Miss.
That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty rare.
That over a top 10 team. I mean, what are they saying? I mean, that's complete.
Well, and you might see this. You might see this if it's like an out of the blue top 10 team, like if somebody's having a banner year.
Yeah.
And they're an unheralded team and they're going to an SEC team on the road, you could see that. But an SEC team that is 7-0, ranked number 7, goes on the road and is a 1-point underdog to a 2-loss team. That's a bit surprising. Well, and I don't even think it's a bad spread. I think LSU's probably just as good as them in their home. So I don't think it's a bad spread. But
let's be honest. When we look at Ole Miss's last 5 games, I mean, they've had a massive schedule. They beat Auburn at home by 2 touchdowns. Then they only beat Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt 52-28. Everybody shuts out Vanderbilt. So they beat Kentucky by 3 points. They beat Tulsa. They beat Georgia Tech. So they haven't exactly been lighting it up. And then you look at LSU. They're the same thing. They haven't had exactly a great schedule, but their only loss was to Tennessee, which was number 8. So LSU is playing much better ball. They got off to a shaky start. They're playing better under your man Brian Kelly, but I don't know, man. Something seems odd to me. I mean, fine, they're playing in Baton Rouge, but it's there's a problem there. Well, that's what that tells me. And then why isn't Vegas making the rankings then instead of other people? Because if they're saying that Ole Miss is number 7, Ole Miss should easily get by an unranked and 2-loss LSU team if you think about it. So yeah, I think it's an interesting anomaly.
Yeah, well, it's an example of the rankings don't match the reality. They just don't. They don't match the reality. When Vegas has an unranked team, a point favorite at home over a 7th ranked team in the country, and Vegas isn't often wrong, it means that the rankings are wrong. That's what it means. It means the rankings are wrong.
And I'm always amazed at how Vegas can get so many games right.
They're so good.
I don't understand how they do it, but they do. And it's crazy because, all the other experts in the world sit there and they discuss this. And people are missing the boat left and right, but Vegas, I mean, it's very rare that they're off. So yeah, so if Vegas is telling you, like you said, if Vegas is telling you this is that LSU is favored in this game, then you know what? It's going to be a good game. This is not going to be an Ole Miss number 7 beats LSU 42-10. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. So there are some good games. There's some good matchups this week, and I like your picks. But let's talk a little NFL, man. I got 6 things I want to run by you. 6 facts for the week.
Let's close the show with the NFL, baby.
I love, dude. You and I just love NFL, man. I like talking other
We've
stuff.
actually we've split this show up much more than normal. We didn't
Yeah,
do much
normally we
NFL, so
talk
let's
way,
roll.
way more NFL. So number one, Bailey Zappe. Who's the Bailey Zappe again? Do you know what school he went to?
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky. That's not fair because you're a Western Kentucky. Are they the Hilltoppers? You're a Hilltopper fan, so that's not fair. He is the first
I don't know where he went.
rookie in Super Bowl era to win and post a 100 plus passer rating in each of his first two starts by beating the incredible Jags, shutting them out, and then by beating, which I think is a little bit of a surprise, putting a beat down at Cleveland 38-15. Is this guy for real? Is Mac Jones in trouble to lose his job? What are your thoughts about this guy who has just literally come out of nowhere to put up two great games in a row?
Did you say? Yeah, I mean,
It's a tough
there's been
call.
some rumblings.
Yeah.
There's been some like weird rumblings I've heard where they actually think he's better than Mac Jones. And what's funny about that is like Mac Jones like seemingly walked on water last year. Like
Yeah. Yeah. He was
they had their
really good
next
last
Tom
year.
Brady. Like the dude was amazing, and now he gets hurt, and this kid comes in, and it's like it. It tells you a couple things. One, it tells you you can't pay a great NFL head coach enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like this dude doesn't miss a beat with whoever he coaches.
It's
Like, and we
unbelievable.
were talking about Brady versus Belichick, and like, obviously you were like, look, it's Brady, not Belichick, because Brady wins the Super Bowl in Tampa and all that. But it was a ready-made roster
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
still a
Yeah.
very good head coach in Bruce Arians, talent everywhere. And listen, Brady's aging like a fine wine, so he was able to be very valuable contributor. But Bill
Yeah.
Belichick rips it apart, starts it over, and never misses a beat. Like
Yeah.
a horrible Bill Belichick team's 500.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's how good of a coach he is. Like so I don't know what Bailey Zapp is, but I know that Mac Jones, who's very limited in terms of his overall skill set, very one-dimensional in an
Yeah.
era of moving and doing different things, they win with him. Now Bailey Zapp, never heard of him, winning with him. It's just like it's Belichick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Belichick.
It's
That's what it
crazy.
is.
It's crazy to think about. So, do you think Mac Jones? Do you think they're gonna keep this
I
Zach?
think I think they stick with Zapp. I think they stick with Zapp until he loses, until he does something bad. I think they stick with him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's going to happen is all of a sudden he's going to have a game where he's like 14 for 38, 4 interceptions, and then they say, "Oh yeah, okay, all right, he's done. He's done." But we'll
Probably,
see.
yeah. But I think you
We'll
ride
see.
the hot hand. I mean, Belichick's all about winning. You ride the hot hand.
We'll see. We'll see. Number two, and this is kind of a different topic, and this is one that you probably wouldn't expect. And this is not going to really get any coverage. I don't think we've ever covered anything like this, but punting. Now, the leader for punting this year, his average right now is 54.9 yards a punt, which is absurd. The top 13, the number 13 guy is averaging 47.9 yards a punt. And listen, growing up, we never saw numbers like that. At least I never saw numbers like that. From 1968 to 2005, so basically Super Bowl era up to 2005, there was never a leader that had 47.9 yards per punt. Now we've got the top 13 as of right now. And the interesting thing about this is, the punting has become so different now, but still the all-time leader in a season happened in 1940, which I think is really interesting. Sammy Baugh, who actually is in the Hall of Fame as a quarterback, actually 51.4 yards in 1940. Best of all time. I mean, of all the records that have gone on for a long time, would you have expected that one to be around for 72 years? But how do you
No, that's
explain,
stunning.
right? Isn't that crazy? But how do you explain this incredible difference? It's almost like around 2005, they turned a switch. And now if you're under 48 yards a punt, you're not going to be able to lead the league. So what do you think has happened where this has changed so much?
So I saw a special on this, and it was more around the place kicker. But I
Yeah.
saw something where like the science of exactly where to kick a ball and exactly how to do certain things, coupled with the overall strength training that's through the roof now, and
Yeah.
all the rest of it, has made them like think about. And I know you were talking about punters, but it holds true. When we were growing up, A 50-yard field goal was impressive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now they all line up in the mid to, late 50-yard field goal attempts are just like, as long as I don't miss wide right or left, I have distance every time.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, think about that. A 40-something yard field goal growing up was a mystery if a guy was going to kick it.
Yeah, yeah,
Now they hit the back of the net from 60. From 55, they're drilling them to the back of the net. They got 10 yards to spare. So I
yeah,
mean, I think it's the way they kick the ball. There's an exact way they hit it in the exact right spot. They've gotten so proficient at that
yeah,
that picks
yeah.
up and drives through the air more. I think makes it more aerodynamic, and I think the weight training. That's what I would attribute it to.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about it. It was I just thought that was a really interesting topic. I saw an article about it too the other day, and so I decided to do some research, and I'm like, this is an interesting trend with punting, but again, that anomaly back to 1940, it's crazy. So it's almost like you think about that and you think, okay, wow, Sammy Baugh was really ahead of his time in a sense, or maybe he was just this unbelievable athlete with just this mind-boggling leg. I don't know, but I thought that was really interesting. So number 3, and we already talked about this, Christian McCaffrey to San Francisco. And here's my question to you. Do you think that San Francisco comes out of the NFC this year? What is the likelihood that they're the last man standing if they have a healthy Christian McCaffrey for the rest of the season?
So the NFC is far the weaker conference to me.
Yeah.
So that trade, prior to the trade, I actually thought the Niners were somewhat dangerous because of their defense being a serious
Yeah.
weapon to dominate in the postseason against a very mediocre offensive conference, right? I mean,
Yep.
we know Aaron. Look at if we were quickly rattling off the scariest teams in the NFC, the Cowboys, but they're not scary. The Eagles, and if the Eagles are the class of the NFC, and I picked them to go to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
but if they're the class of the NFC led by Jalen Hurts, that's not the most scary thing in the world. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers is obviously having challenges with the offense there.
Yep. Yep.
Um, sorry, with all apologies to the Vikings, Kirk Cousins will poop the bed when it matters in the playoffs. So the Rams are the defending champs, but they seem like Stafford's a year older, arm issues, this and that. They don't have a running game at all.
No. No.
So if they were, in my mind, already a dangerous team, obviously a healthy McCaffrey makes them even more dangerous. If I
Yeah.
was saying right now,
Yeah.
I would say they're the favorites. They're the heavy favorites to now win the West
Yep.
and to
Yep.
be a top 2 or 3 seed. And if the only team keeping them from the Super Bowl is the Eagles, I think they got a pretty good shot. If it's Eagles, Cowboys, and them, because with all apologies to the Giants are doing it with smoke and mirrors. I don't buy the Giants as like a deep playoff threat. So yeah, I think the Niners become right now the second choice to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? The interesting thing is when you compare these two teams, the Niners have a much, much more difficult schedule. So if they end up getting the 2 seed, let's say, and it ends up being, let's say, the Eagles and the Niners to go to the Super Bowl, it could be a really, really great game. And the Niners, I mean, they're gonna, I mean, they really do. Their schedule is I think significantly more difficult than the Eagles' schedule. So we'll see. But it's
Yeah,
exciting. I didn't expect him to go there. I thought he was going to the Rams, but
yeah.
in San Francisco, I mean that still makes a lot of sense for those guys. So great job there. And again,
Defense and running travel. If you can run the
yeah,
football and play defense, that plays well in the postseason
I
because you
agree.
start getting into different weather conditions, different things. I think that plays well. So
Yep. I agree. Number 4, our favorite team, the New York Jets. They win their 3rd in a row. First time they've won 3 in a row. It seems like about 50 years, but it's been since 2019. And they've already tied last year's win total. 2 more wins will equal their last 2 years of win totals combined. So here's my question for you. What's going on in New Jersey? And do they deserve to be a top 10 team in the ESPN power rankings?
I mean, I don't know about that last part.
I-
Maybe because their last 2 wins have been impressive, and
Yeah, yeah,
they're doing it. I think what the league is seeing, and with like the conversation around the league, is they're not doing it in a way that can't be replicated,
Yeah.
right? So their ground game looks really strong. Their
Yeah.
front on the defensive front looks really good and is
Yeah.
wreaking havoc. Those
Yeah.
are transferable to keep going. I don't think
Yeah.
they're doing it on like a wing and a prayer.
Yeah.
I have concerns about the Jets overall, but what I don't have concerns with, and we talked about this all year, they really have playmakers in all the different facets of the game, even down to their special teams with Barrios is a major weapon.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Oh
Barrios
yeah.
is really talented. He doesn't get enough credit. And because he's kind of playing in anonymity because the Jets have been bad. But now that they're maybe going to be good, the dude's like a amazing punt returner. He's a
Yeah.
dangerous kickoff returner.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
dangerous on those end rounds. They give him 1 or 2 chances a game. He makes something happen. Um, just talent everywhere. So what would be my concern is a coach that I'm not totally. Let's see what he is. I'm not gonna. Salah's fine. He's okay. I want to see what he looks like when he's managing a bunch of close games and that matter, right?
Yeah.
Those little
Yeah.
decisions, when to take a timeout, how to kind of get through a difficult patch of a game.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously, Zach Wilson still is only in week 3 of
Yeah.
his season.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did come in a situation where he had to go to Lambeau. That's a really good defense. Still overall, still a really good defense. That's not an easy spot. This week's got to go to Denver, a top 3 defense. So
Yeah.
he's had a tough little way to open his, season. And he hasn't looked great yet. So he's the concern. I think everything else around him is pretty good. And I was mentioning this to you this week. It's a little like 09, 2010 Jets.
Yep.
Mark Sanchez, don't mess it up. We got a really good running game. We got a really good
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
We can ride all these other parts. The difference between a decade ago's couple of really good Jet teams and this team, and I don't know what success this team's going to have, the difference would be much younger talent on this team. That team had a little bit older good talent.
Yep.
And I do think the skilled players are better on this team. They're younger, but I think they're better than what the Jets had. And they got a stud potential top 3 running back. Brees Hall might be a top 3 running back in the NFL right now, not rookie, top 3 running back,
Well,
because running backs can come right into the league and be great. They don't need 3 years. Saquon Barkley, Dalvin
yeah.
Cook, you can name
Yeah.
them all. They
Yeah.
come right in and they're great because that's the nature of the position.
Well, the thing that's gotten me so excited about the Jets is this is the first time in a long time where their draft is paying off immediate dividends, and that normally doesn't happen with the Jets. Normally they make some head scratching picks, but I mean, top to bottom, I mean, this has been really good. Sauce Gardner looks incredible. You've got Garrett Wilson, who looks great. You've got Brees Hall, the first running back. They got him in the 2nd round. That looked great. Even their 4th round pick, Michael Clemens, is a disruptor, and I like his game, even though he's fighting for some playing time. But overall, I think that's what it is. They finally seem like they've hit it on draft, and for the first time since God, I can't even remember how long it's been, the John Abraham draft, maybe, or the
Oh, Sean
draft.
Ellis, John Abraham.
Yeah, that was a great draft. Or the
The
Nick
DeBrickashaw
Mangold
Ferguson, Nick
and
Mangold.
Brickashaw. Yeah, so they've had a couple
Yeah.
good drafts, but this one might turn out to be their best ever, and it's paying off dividends right away, which is really exciting for Jets fans. All right, number five.
No, I agree.
Mitch Trubisky comes in last week for the injured Kenny, don't forget I have small hands, Pickett, leading Pittsburgh to a win over the Bucks 20-18. I keep asking this question, man. Is TB12 and Tampa Bay, are they just done? Is this it for them? Tom is yelling at all his offensive linemen during the game. He's now saying that he may not retire after the season now that he doesn't have a wife nagging him. What's going on in Tampa Bay, man? I'm so confused because I thought they were going to be better than this, and they're just not. They're not scoring a lot of points, and their defense has not looked good at all.
Listen, I think it would be fair to say the distractions around Brady has not had him playing his best.
Yeah.
There's just a lot going around. Clearly, he's living this through the media. It can't be easy. So that's definitely a factor. I think Tampa had parts of their Super Bowl team. You could see this play out a year or 2 down the road. It was aging. So
Yeah.
some of it was like this balance of age and youth, but some of the age is really aged out.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think he's missing a safety net like Gronkowski.
Yep.
He doesn't have as many reliable weapons, and he's got some aging weapons. I don't think their offensive line's any good at all, which is a major
No.
problem for Brady.
No.
So, he's not the kind of quarterback that could sit behind a weak line because you're going to get him killed. He can't move.
That's right.
So they
That's
didn't
right.
really shore up the line yet. I think by the time the postseason gets here, they'll make an acquisition or two on the line. They'll try to shore it up and at least hold it up decently. But they're just not they're not a scary team, which again leads to that's why the NFC is just weak. It's just not
Yeah.
that good,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
As crazy as that sounds, I mean, and you and I both thought, oh, they're playing Pittsburgh. It's not going to be much of a game, and it turns out they lose. I mean, who saw that happening? I mean, Pittsburgh is just not a great team. So I thought
Yeah.
that was really interesting. And then last but not least, number 6, the Bears. They allow 99 passing yards
The
last
Bears.
week, 128 rushing yards, and still lose 12-7 to the, who was it? Washington. I can't even remember what their name is. Are they officially the worst team in the NFL? And what does that say for your defense when your defense plays a good game and your offense just cannot do anything?
Yeah. It says that, drafting quarterbacks in the top 10 matter, and when you get it wrong, it's a disaster and it sets you back 3 years. I don't think Justin Fields is any good. I don't think he's got the best talent around him, but I just don't think he's any good. It's a long line of Ohio State busts at quarterback. You go when you just got to run for the hills from Ohio State quarterbacks. And I know CJ Stroud's going to try to prove me wrong. I'd be leery. Their track record's bad.
It's unfortunate because I think that Justin Fields, I think in college it showed he had all the talent in the world. I don't know what's going on with that guy, but yeah, like you said, he's terrible. When you look at Ohio State, and we've talked about this before because I think it's the funniest thing. When you look at all the quarterbacks that they put in the NFL, which has probably been, I don't know, 12, 15 quarterbacks over the years, it's sad when their very best quarterback ends up being an NFL punter. Like that was their most successful quarterback, Tom Tupa, who was like a punter for like 16 seasons or something.
The
Sad.
Tupa Scoopa. Yeah.
Sad. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, man.
Sad. So now it's my favorite time, and that is it's time to fill up your bank account. So Phil, I am looking to make some money. You missed us last week. I didn't make any money last week because I made my own picks. I took the Bears to win. I got crushed. I took the Jets to lose. I got crushed. I need you. I need your wisdom back here. I need you to make me some money, man. I am ready. I'm not ready to bet the mortgage payment. I'm ready to bet the retirement fund. So I need you, no pressure.
All right.
I need you to hook up me and my family.
All right. Well, no pressure. I understand. I'm not feeling any pressure. 7-6, 2-2 overall. Took a week off to try to get my head straightened out. Although I had just, was coming off what 2-2 the week before. So, I'm sorry. I'm 9-8, 9-8, 3-2 best bets.
That's
So
right.
9-8, 3-2 best bets. All right. We're plotting along. Not like
We're
last year,
moving
but
in the right direction after a slow start,
if you're betting each individual game I give you with a bookie, you're up a little. You're 9-8. You got one more win than loss.
You're
So
right.
let's say what we could do here. So let's go with the first one I'm gonna go with is out in Vegas. It's the Texans in Vegas. I do think the Raiders are much better than their 1-4 record. They're laying 7 points in this game. I'm waiting for the day where Adams and Carr put it together. Jacobs is a good back. I think this is the game they put it together and put a big number on the Texans. So I'm going to take Vegas and lay 7. I feel really good about that game to get out of the gate.
Excellent.
The next game is is an interesting game. Like it's probably the game of the week. You got the Chiefs and the 49ers. The Chiefs are laying a point, and I like the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. I do. I think there's going to be such a momentum and an excitement around the Niners here. I know McCaffrey's not going to be able to play a ton in this game. He's going to have a package of plays. He's not going to be like, playing a ton. But I think this is the game where you feel the real loss of Tyreek Hill for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Niners team that can get after the quarterback. He doesn't have one of his safety blankets in Tyreek Hill that he can, hit some big plays on. Because if you think about the Chiefs,
Yeah,
historically. Yes, they can grind you out with long drives. They can, but inevitably Tyreek Hill would have 2 or 3 game-breaking plays every
that's right.
game
That's
that
right.
that killed you, and they don't have that now. So I'm
That's
gonna
right.
take the Niners +1. I
Nice.
think I really think the Niners got something here. So I'm gonna take the Niners +1. Another game, and I could be dead wrong on this, is the Sunday night game. The Steelers are getting 7.5. I don't love everything about the Steelers, obviously, but I don't. The Dolphins are on their third quarterback shuffle back. I think they're going back to Tua now. I think he's going to be cleared to play. I could anticipate a little bit of rust here. I can anticipate this game not being smooth. I think the Dolphins win an ugly game, but I don't love the Dolphins giving 7.5 in this game. So I'm going to take that. And then my best bet, I feel like equally confident, and it's like with the Ohio State pick, and it's the Monday night game, and the poor, pathetic Bears go to Foxborough. They can't score. They're not scoring on the Pats. Like the Pats are beating people's butt right now and dominating. I mean, if the Bears break 10 in this game, I'd be surprised.
That's
They
true.
could play a half a Zap and a half a Mac Jones and call him a Zap Jones. And I think they're going to put up 24. So this is like a 24-7 win. Maybe
Yeah,
Belichick is laughing on the sideline as Justin Fields can't read between a cover 2, a cover 3, man to man, and he's having a field day with him. So I think this is like a 24-7 final, and the Pats comfortably cover. My best bet.
what's the what is the what's the spread on your lock this
They're
week?
laying 7.5. Pats are 7.5.
That's it.
7.5. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. So I got the Steelers getting 7.5 over the Dolphins. Vegas laying 7. Niners getting 1 over the Chiefs, and Pats laying 7.5. Best bet. 4 games.
Man, I'm feeling like I might just put all my money on that last game, man. Your lock looks like the lock that could be the lock of the century. My God.
Take the mortgage payment. Take the extra payment you make to pay down the principal, and shove all in on your Caesars Sportsbook or your DraftKings app or your
I love it. I
whatever.
love it. Well, dude,
That's
I mean,
it.
yeah, those are some
Let's
good
go.
picks, man. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And then one thing that I wanted to get to, and I know we kind of went out of order, was Phil's game ball for last week. And here's our 3 people. Now remember, in order to be eligible for the game ball, your team has to win. So you can't just put up stats, you got to win also. So here's our 3 finalists.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We've got unbelievably Matt Ryan, 42 for 58, 3 touchdowns, 389 yards in a unbelievable 34-27 win over the unbelievable Jacksonville Jaguars. Jamar Chase, 7 receptions, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns in a 30-26 win at New Orleans. And then our number 3, Breece Hall, a Jet, finally makes the final 3, 20 rushes, 116 yards, and 1 score in a 27-10 shellacking at Green Bay, which normally does not happen. So who are you giving your game ball to for last week, Phil?
I'm going with the old man. I'm going Matt Ryan. Giving it to Matty Ice because he may never get another game ball. So I'm going to be nostalgic.
He's had a long career of not really winning many games, but yeah, this was a good one for him, and he did it without his top 2 running backs too. So I'm going to have to agree with that. I think that's a good call. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly and just have a brief discussion. I just want to talk about how soft these guys are. And I'm not talking about physically soft. I'm talking about emotionally soft, how their feelings get hurt. You got a guy like, I'm going to give you 3 examples. You got a guy like Elijah Moore, a really solid slot receiver for the Jets. He's not getting enough touches 6 games into the season, so he's already asked to be traded in the beginning of his 2nd year of his contract. Then you've got going to a little soccer, Ronaldo, who we all know is one of the greatest soccer players in the world. He didn't play in a game, and they wanted him to come off the bench, and he refused to come into the game. And then you got a guy like Robbie Anderson, who has a little hissy fit on the sideline. God only knows why. And so they immediately trade him. So what are we just setting these guys up that they think they have all the power? They think that they deserve more than what they're getting. And I mean, are we looking at sports today, it seems like sports have gotten much softer emotionally than in the past. I mean, are we raising these guys to be wimps? I mean, to be really wimpy? Oh, my feelings hurt. I mean, did you ever hear in the 80s a football player gets their feelings hurt? I mean, these guys play team sports and all they're doing is looking out for themselves. So what are your thoughts on kind of what professional sports has become? And I could throw LeBron. I mean, I could give you 100 examples of LeBron James, but what are your thoughts about how wimpy these guys are getting emotionally?
It's a societal issue with the entitlement, but it's also when it comes to these great athletes, think about it. They've been told they're the best in the world since typically they're in middle school,
Yeah.
right? Some of these freak athletes, it's certainly by high school they have been. They've been revered in college. And so everybody in your ear has told you you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. At the first sign of adversity, especially when you combine that with the societal, like very soft nature of how everybody parents and everybody does everything nowadays, you put all that together,
Yeah. Yeah.
you got soft people. People that don't want to overcome adversity, people that rather trade me, run from it. I don't want to stay here. My feelings are hurt. It's just the way it is. You see it all the way. But particularly when you find these young kids in the NFL, the NBA, they've had 50,000 people bowing down to them since they're in middle school. So like they just their egos up here. They have no frame of reference of anything being difficult, of trying to have adversity. I'm not saying any of their they might grow up in adversity, they may have different things that they overcome, but in terms of like when it relates to sports, these kids are put on a pedestal. The AAUs and the travel sports, they're on a pedestal since they're so young,
Yeah.
that they're so weak-minded, a lot of them, and they got bad people in their corners giving them bad advice. I guarantee you, if Elijah Moore had a couple of stable people in his life telling him, hey dude, you got it pretty good, I wouldn't rock the boat yet. And not to mention, if you just looked at it from a business perspective, to use him, you have no leverage.
None.
You're in a second year of a rookie contract. You're asking for a trade. They're just gonna tell you no, and now you've just given a bad perception to the rest of the NFL. Like that's a lose-lose for Elijah Moore. So somebody should have been smart in his corner instead of feeding him garbage, to be
That's
like,
right.
"Hey,
That's
dude,
right.
this isn't the time to do this right now. You know,
That's right.
keep your beef quietly. Maybe say something in the off season, maybe, or something, but that's it." So bad advice, entitlement, put on a pedestal. I think all of those reasons. So
And I think one of the worst places is in college with this transfer portal. And we keep talking about that because it's ridiculous. But it's like, oh, I'm not happy. They
yeah,
didn't play me enough. I'm just going to go transfer. I mean, literally, there's no law.
that's
There's
it.
there's no rule that says you play 4 seasons. You can't play for 4 different universities.
Yeah, it's bad. The
I mean,
transfer portal
it's
doesn't help, and that's a new phenomenon. But yeah,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like I don't want to work hard. And plus, there's got
yeah,
to be no better feeling, and there's got to be no better feeling for a freshman kid coming in. Let's say you're a freshman at Ohio State, and you're super talented. You only know being the number one kid in your high school, one of the highest recruited kids, and now you come in at linebacker, and you're second string, third string, and you have to grind all year and work hard.
yeah,
And
yeah,
second year, you start getting some playing time. And then third year, you take over as the man.
yeah,
Even though that may not be the blueprint of how you'd want it to be, you
yeah,
can't tell me that kid in his third year isn't that much better for it,
yeah.
because he stuck with it, he grinded through it, and now he's the man for the last 2 years on campus, versus like it just being handed to you, or I'm just going to transfer somewhere else where you may run into the same issue, but you just ran from your problem. And so like that creates weak people. Like you don't
Yeah,
fight through anything. You don't overcome things. It
yeah,
just teaches
yeah,
you to cut bait and run every time something's difficult.
yeah.
So
And
that's a
that's
life lesson beyond sports, but I think it's a big part of the issue.
yeah, and I think we're just it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and we're just coddling people. And let's toughen up, man. Let's get a little Bobby Knight out there yelling in somebody's face, and let's toughen these kids up, or a headbutt, or throwing a chair across the table, I mean across the court. So yeah, I think it's an interesting
Yeah.
topic, and it's something that we may want to dive into on a later date also. But that's about all we got today, Phil. I just want to congratulate you again on helping to orchestrate that incredible trade, and I hope that it pans out for the Panthers. And you did a great job getting as much as you could for a generational talent like Christian McCaffrey, who can't stay on the field. So So great job there. Great episode as always. We're going to get this thing out right away so people can make sure to get their bets. But Phil, enjoy your weekend. Let's watch some good football, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch our Jets. Everybody, if you're watching, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell people you like, tell people you don't like, tell your family, tell your bookie not to watch us, because then they'll be really upset about all the money that they're going to lose. But hope everybody has a great weekend, and thanks for checking us out. Appreciate it.
See you guys.